Hey everyone, Mr. DVB here. So today I'm going to bring you guys my review for Captain Marvel, which is the newest film in the MCU and the most controversial film in the MCU. This movie has been getting a lot of backlash over the past few weeks because of what Brie Larson said. I think what she did was really stupid and it was horribly timed. Right before her movie comes out, for her to make a comment like that was just really dumb on her part. But today my job and what I'm going to be doing is bringing you guys my honest thoughts on this movie for how it is as a superhero film. I'm not going to be taking any of the stuff that Brie Larson said and, use that to fuel my anger so I can hate on this movie. I'm here to give you guys my honest thoughts on Captain Marvel. So going into this movie, I really didn't know what to expect. There was a lot of mixed things for me about this movie. For example, the trailers were just really bland and didn't really show me much that I found to be interesting. It kind of looked like a mix of Guardians of the Galaxy and Thor Ragnarok, but without any of the humor. So it just looked like kind of a, basic average space adventure movie that I didn't have that much of an interest in. On top of that, of course, there was the whole Brie Larson controversy where she said those things, and that just made the whole fandom really annoyed. So there was a ton of hate online. The movie was being downvoted. It had a 30%. I still think it's actually in the 30s on Rotten Tomatoes for a user score. Critics were giving it 85%, this is a great superhero film. And then you have guys like Chris Stuckman and Jeremy Jahns who were saying that it was a really mediocre film. So I didn't know who to trust. I knew that the fans were being a little bit over the top with their hatred towards the film when they haven't even seen it. And I knew that the critics were just overrating it because that's how it goes with most MCU films. So I didn't know who to trust. I was like, okay, let's just go see Captain Marvel and, find out what I think of it. And coming out of Captain Marvel, I am actually happy to say that I really enjoyed this movie. Now, this video probably just got about 30 dislikes, and that's fine. I'm just here to give you guys my honest thoughts. I really liked Captain Marvel. I thought this was a really fun and entertaining superhero film. It is not perfect. There are definitely flaws, a lot more flaws than there normally are in MCU films, and I will, acknowledge those and bring those up later on. But for now, I just want to talk about the basic premise of this movie. So obviously, we are being introduced to Carol Danvers, who is played by Brie Larson, who is, of course, Captain Marvel, and she is this Kree warrior who is from Earth, who does not know anything about her, backstory or history. She cannot remember anything. She has these little snippets of memories that are appearing in her dreams, and she just wants to know who she really is. She's currently working with the Kree to kind of take down the Skrulls. There's this big, intergalactic war going on between these two species, and then it eventually finds its way to Earth, and that's where we meet characters like Nick Fury, played by Samuel L. Jackson, and the movie is just this really fun, entertaining 90s action superhero movie. So, let's talk about the pros first. Well, first of all, Samuel L. Jackson in this movie. I really enjoyed him in this film. Now, obviously, Samuel L. Jackson's a great actor. He is great in all of the MCU films, but I have to say that he actually probably stands out the most in this movie than he does in any of the other MCU films as Nick Fury. I think in a lot of those other films, he's more of a side character who isn't really given that much screen time. Here, he is one of the main characters, and I do think this is his best portrayal of the character yet because he's a lot less serious in this movie than he is in the others, so it kind of added this fun, charismatic performance from Samuel L. Jackson that we're not used to in the MCU. Now, I still love him in the other MCU films. He's just a lot more serious there, so it was kind of cool to see this other side of Samuel L. Jackson. And the entire time I was watching this movie, since it's set in the 90s and he looks younger, which, by the way, the de-aging effects they did, I believe it was makeup, not CGI, looks fantastic in this movie. They did a great job there. But the entire time I was seeing Samuel L. Jackson, I was just thinking, this just feels like Pulp Fiction to me. It was pretty funny, but yeah, he was great in this movie, and there were some really fantastic moments with him and Brie Larson and this one cat named Goose, who was just a really funny character that stood out in the movie. So really enjoyed him in the movie. The CGI was very good as always. This is just a normal thing for MCU films at this point. There were some moments that were bad looking, and that is to be expected with superhero movies. There's always moments that will look very off, but for the most part, the CGI here was really, really good. I saw this in IMAX, by the way, so there was a lot of ratio changing, which was a little bit jarring at times, but it was really cool. Whenever those IMAX shots were in there, it was really awesome, just establishing this huge, scope of universe, showing us all these big, really cool areas. So it was great seeing the movie in IMAX. If you guys do have IMAX near you, I would suggest seeing this movie in it. The Skrulls were really badass. They looked really awesome. The makeup effects on them were fantastic. There was one Skrull in particular named Talos who was kind of the villain of this movie, and I thought he was a great character. He was played by Ben Mendelsohn, who I actually think is one of the best villain actors in recent years. He kind of plays similar roles all the time, but I think he's a great actor, and I thought he was fantastic in this movie. And yeah, overall, like, I just love the 90s setting. It was really fun and nostalgic. I don't think they played it up as much as they could have. There wasn't enough like 90s music in this movie compared to like Guardians of the Galaxy, which is just like, you know, throwing 60s, 70s, and 80s at you all at once. I think there could have definitely been some more 90s like nostalgia in this movie. But overall, like, you know, it was really cool seeing like 90s LA, and I enjoyed that. It was fun. It just made for a really enjoyable setting, and it was cool to see that. I'm kind of getting a little bit sick of seeing New York in every single MCU film, so seeing a different city for once was nice. Seeing some palm trees, it was kind of cool, and I enjoyed that. Alright, now that I've talked about the pros for a bit, let's talk about some of the cons. So first of all, Brie Larson in this movie as Captain Marvel. Now, I don't think she was bad. I think that she was fine, she was likable at times, but there was a lot of moments in this movie where she just didn't really feel like she was delivering the emotions. She felt very stoic at times, like, you know, she's supposed to have this emotional scene, and she just kind of came across as bland, like she wasn't able to portray, like, you know, tears or anything like that. Now, I think Brie Larson's a really good actress. If you guys haven't seen her in Room, she's fantastic in that movie. So I don't know exactly what happened here, if it had to do with the directing, or if it just had to do with her performance in general. She just didn't seem like she was very fit for the role at times. I think, honestly, she'll be better over time, because this is something that's happened in the MCU before. Not every single actor is just lightning out of the bottle. Obviously, Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark was amazing in the first Iron Man, but if you look at Chris Hemsworth in the first Thor, he wasn't that great in that movie either. A lot of people were complaining about T'Challa in Black Panther last year, and that the performance by Chadwick Boseman was not necessarily that great, and that he was kind of forgettable. So I don't think that Brie Larson necessarily is like a bad actress, and this is going to be her performance for the rest of her MCU career. I think it was just kind of one miss, and I think in the future she'll be better. Like I said, there were still some good moments with her, and I think overall she was a likable character, but I do think there were some moments where she was kind of dull. Let's talk about the action sequences for a second. Now, obviously, when you're watching a superhero movie, you got to be critical about the action sequences. I mean, that's like one of the big reasons you're seeing these movies, and there were some cool action moments in this film, but for the most part, they were very forgettable. There was a few cool scenes. Mainly, it just had to do with the really good special effects. But when I think of like the really awesome, big, epic moments in this movie, there weren't really any for me. There were some cool shots in the final act, you know, when she's flying around in space and blowing up spaceships. Some stuff like that was kind of cool, but there wasn't really any super memorable action sequences that just pop into my mind right now. Whereas, you know, if I think about Infinity War, I'm thinking about the Battle of Wakanda and the battle between Thanos, Spider-Man, and all the other characters on Titan. When I think of, you know, Thor Ragnarok, I'm thinking of the bridge battle on Asgard. You know, every MCU film usually has these really memorable action moments, and if I had to compare the action in this to any other MCU film, I'd probably compare it to Spider-Man Homecoming, where both these films really don't have any big memorable action sequences. They're kind of just there. I also found that this film, the action sequences were a little bit too close up and shaky cam looking, so I think they could have done a better job there with some of the shots. It's probably just the directors not really knowing what they were doing with, you know, filming action sequences. I haven't seen any of the other movies, so I can't really say. But that was something I did notice with this movie. So besides the action and some of that other stuff, the really only other few cons that I would have is the non-existent score. Seriously, there were some great songs in here from the 90s, not enough like I said earlier, but there were some great songs in here. But as far as the actual composing goes, like the actual score, I don't even remember even hearing one, to be honest. You know, you think of the Avengers and you think of some of the other MCU films, there's usually some decent, memorable scores. I will admit that overall the MCU isn't as good as DC when it comes to soundtracks. But holy crap, this film had like nothing memorable at its score. I can't really think of even one theme in this movie, so that was, you know, a pretty jarring thing for me, because I do love hearing like really great soundtracks. The villain was very forgettable. Now, there's kind of like two villains in this movie, depending how you look at it. One of them was great, and the other one was really bad in my opinion, just super forgettable, is there for like barely any bit of the movie. And my last and final thing is kind of a sluggish narrative. It does take a while for the film to kind of find its footing, and I think it just has to do with the slow pace in the first like 30 minutes. The first 30 minutes of this movie were kind of like this for me. I wouldn't say it was bad, but it was average, and I think everything after that ranged from really good to great at times. So there you go, guys. I know it sounded like I had a lot of cons with this movie, and like I said, this movie is not perfect. It does have its flaws, and I wanted to bring those up. So overall, I know a lot of you guys probably heavily disagree with me on Captain Marvel, and that's fine. Film's subjective. Just don't be a jerk in the comment, please. I'm just trying to give you guys my honest thoughts on a superhero film. I mean, obviously, everybody's looking forward to Avengers Endgame. I don't know why you would care about my thoughts on Captain Marvel. I'm going to give this movie an 8 out of 10. I thought it was really fun. Like I said, there was a lot of flaws, and I know you could probably say, like, how is he giving it an 8 when he said all those things about the narrative and the non-existent score? Yeah, okay, maybe this would be like a 6 if you were taking all those things and actually, like, thinking about them. But I'm going with an 8 because I had fun with this movie. I thought it was an enjoyable time, and yeah, there you go, guys. Those are my thoughts on Captain Marvel. Thank you all for watching this video. If you guys saw the movie, let me know what you thought of it down below. Probably something to do with you hating Brie Larson, but whatever. There you go, guys. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time where I'll be ranking the MCU films from worst to best.